I don't know if you'll relate to this video, but I, as an autistic person, really struggle with summer and hot weather, and in this video I'm going to tell you all the reasons as to why. So first up is the heat. It's a really obvious one, isn't it? But I found over recent years it's just got hotter and hotter. Here in the UK, I think as a child, we would get heat waves, of course, but they just didn't seem to hit the temperatures that they now do. And this can prove really challenging in the UK because we don't really have aircon here, and our houses or housing is really built to contain heat because we often have cold winters. So yeah, it can be a bit of a challenge when we're getting the temperatures that we sometimes get through the summer now. I think a couple of years ago we hit 40 degrees Celsius, which is yeah, just bonkers. And because of this constant heat, I find that I sweat a lot more, and I hate the feeling of being sweaty. I've just always had a thing about it, and it's so difficult not to feel sweaty when the temperatures are so high. And because the UK is an island, this can and does lead to high humidity, and high humidity makes it more difficult for your sweat to evaporate into the air. And when high humidity is combined with high temperatures, this can lead to heat stress or overheating. And also clothing can be really difficult. I find that I just don't know what to wear on hot days because I really like wearing cardigans, and cardigans with pockets, because it's just practical, isn't it? You can carry bits and bobs around with you that you need during the course of the day. But if you're just not able to wear clothing that you find comfortable, it's really challenging for autistic people. And summer can be just too bright. And if you're like me, you have kind of visual sensitivities, is the best way to describe it. I really struggle with bright lights, and I wear sunglasses on every day of the year outside because I just find the outside world too bright, really. And Ian and I went to Lyme Regis a little while ago for a day out, and it was so bright that I couldn't even register the fact that I had my sunglasses on. And it kind of led to a meltdown actually on the day because I just got too freaked out about how bright it was. And yeah, it can be just so challenging, and it's a reminder to myself that I need to get some much darker sunglasses for when it's really bright, because it's just painful is the best way that I can describe it. It just feels kind of too much, and it's so overwhelming, and it's, yeah, certainly a real downside of summer for me. Temperature regulation is another massive issue for many autistic people, and certainly myself. And during spells of more normal temperatures, my body can get really cold really quickly. But during the summer, I just find it really hard to try and, keep my body cool when the outside world is just so hot. And yeah, I'm kind of dreading when it's going to get really hot, because the temperatures have really jumped this week, and that's certainly what's yeah, given me the inspiration to make this video this week. But I am dreading the 30-degree temperature that we're inevitably going to get at some point this year. We're just about about 25 to 27 degrees centigrade at the moment, and I'm already struggling, so I am dreading the even hotter temperatures. I really struggle with getting in the car at this time of year as well, because it's made out of metal, and of course it's going to attract all of the heat, and it takes ages for a car to cool down, doesn't it, if you've got aircon in the car. And the smell and the just whole kind of really thick atmosphere or really thick air in a car, yeah, makes me feel almost a bit nauseous, really. And I find car journeys, or any kind of public transport journeys as well, to be honest, really difficult at this time of year. And with more heat comes more people. And I mean, in terms of, just being out and about, there's just more people. The heat and the sunshine attracts people to get outside. And, so it shows if you don't have any or very few sensory issues around the sun and heat, why wouldn't you go outside? Because I do get why people would enjoy it, but yeah, for me, I just don't. And I'm just very aware that with warmer temperatures come more people out and about, there's more traffic, so it's noisier. I hate as well that you also get people, speeding in cars and all of that stuff as well. I just find all of that stuff just so draining. Pollen is a big issue for me as well, and it is for basically everybody who suffers with hay fever, but I have mast cell activation syndrome, so pollen is actually one of my triggers. So I get kind of burning eyes and burning tongue whenever there's too much pollen in the air. So I found that I certainly can't go out in the evenings in summer because the pollen has reached such a level that it's almost like hitting a brick wall. I just can't go any further, and that's even with antihistamines and mast cell stabilizing medication. I just really struggle with pollen, and certainly in the evenings I just cannot go outside at all. Droughts are another thing that I really worry about during the summer, because if we don't have enough rainfall, the ground is really dry. And this is becoming more and more of a common scenario here in the UK. And I just really worry about wildlife. And or we leave, trays of water out for animals, etc. But in an ideal world, we shouldn't have to be doing this. And wildfires are a real threat as well, aren't they, to our world? And yeah, it's just something that I constantly worry about, and particularly through the summer. Through the summer and through having hotter temperatures, I really miss having hot water bottles, and I imagine this will be a common one for people who have chronic pain, because we rely on hot water bottles or heat packs to be able to, just help with pain. And I use a hot water bottle a lot on my upper back and on my shoulders, and it just really helps. And I, often sit with one on my back in the evening. And if we're not able to do this, it leads to, yeah, just more pain. And I find when the temperatures are too hot, the last thing I feel like doing is propping myself up with a hot water bottle. So yeah, it's almost like a catch-22, isn't it? It's do you want to help your chronic pain, or do you want to feel really overwhelmed with way too much heat? And yeah, it's one of the downsides of this time of year for sure. Getting enough sleep is a real issue for me and my partner during the summer months as well, because we'll have to leave the bedroom window open, which is nice to get some kind of cooler air in the evenings or during the nights. But of course, with that comes additional noise, and we'll leave the bedroom door open as well. But as a result of that, there's kind of more lights coming in as well, which is frustrating, because we like the bedroom really dark and really cool to be able to sleep in it properly. But of course, when you've got all these additional factors going on, it really does interfere with your sleep. Sunscreen is really important to wear all year round, but particularly in summer because of the stronger sun, and with that comes kind of higher UV levels. So it really is essential. But I really struggle with this sensation of like heavy products on my skin. And of course, sunscreen can be kind of quite gloopy, can't it? So I've just never been very good with that kind of sensation on my skin, or if it feels kind of sticky, or I just really struggle with it. And it's part and parcel of summer, isn't it? It's really important to wear. Thankfully, I have come across just the one product that isn't too heavy on the skin, and it doesn't smell very much either, which is another factor for me. So I'll leave this linked down in video description if that's of interest. And another annoyance, which isn't specifically for me, but for my dog, John Paul, or our dog, it's really difficult to walk your dog during the summer months because you have to time it so it's of a cool enough temperature for your dog to feel not distressed in any way, because you have to factor in if the pavement itself is going to be too hot for their paws. And particularly with Jean Paul, because he's a French bulldog, we have to be really careful with his breathing because he can get kind of really overwhelmed by heat. So yeah, it's another reason why summer is really tricky for us in this house. Hot holidays. I have to say, I've just never really understood hot weather. And now I know that I'm autistic, I can kind of understand some of the difficulties that I've had around summer and the heat. And it's really interesting because my first holiday abroad was in my early 20s, and I went with some other kind of friends or acquaintances, and I was just shocked at the heat that hit me as I got off the plane. We went to one of the Greek islands, and everybody seemed to be really loving this kind of hot experience, but I was just so confused by it because I just could not cool down, and I was the only person that seemed to be kind of struggling with this really hot weather, and I just could never understand, and certainly in the years to follow, I just couldn't understand why I found hot holidays just so difficult and really quite off-putting actually. So I'd always much prefer going on holidays kind of out of season, just to be able to just embrace those cooler temperatures really. And in fact, we will only ever holiday in the UK these days, myself and my partner. Because of my MCAS, it's just too difficult even to try to go abroad. But yeah, we just really like cooler temperatures and getting out on kind of walking holidays really. So it really does suit us, but we both get quite stressed out if the temperatures get too hot really. So I'd like to give you some positives about hot weather because I don't want this to be wholly negative as a video, but I've really struggled, I have to say, but I've come up with two. And the first is dry eye syndrome. So if, like me, you suffer with dry eye, I'm forever putting like heat bags on my eyes, and I've got heated wands for my eyes as well, really just to get my eyes to feel kind of lubricated and there's enough oil coming into my eyes. And I've found as a result of really quite warm weather, I don't need to do any of that actually. My eyes actually feel a lot more comfortable, so I guess that is a positive of hot weather. And also you can dry your washing really quickly and really easily, so there you have it, there are two positives. If, like me, you struggle with the heat, I'm going to go through some tips that I've found actually quite helpful. So the first is, whenever there's any sign of warm weather coming, and in particular sunny warm weather, is to keep your curtains closed during the day and keep your windows closed as well, because it took me a while to figure out that actually if it's really warm outside and you've got your windows open, that warm weather is actually going to come into your house, isn't it? And as I said earlier, houses in the UK are built to trap this heat. So it can be really quite problematic if you're encouraging more and more heat to come into the house. The next tip is to stay hydrated. You know, with the warmer weather, we're all going to be sweating more. So we need to kind of up our fluid intake as a result of that. So I've spoken many a time now about the fact that drinking fluids is actually a stim of mine. So it's something that I personally don't need to be, too concerned about, but it is important to remember to keep up your fluid intake. Cool showers are of course really useful as well, particularly if you're struggling to cool down in a moment. Although I have to say that I really, really struggle with showers. I've just always really dislike them. I'm much more of a bath person. So for me, I'll tend to have my bath a bit cooler, and actually keeping your hair damp as well is quite a useful tip. I realise this isn't going to be appropriate for everybody because a lot of autistic people struggle with the sensory aspect of having wet or damp hair, but it can help to, make you feel a little bit cooler. Having a fan is a really obvious tip actually, isn't it? But I struggle with the noise elements of a fan. I don't really like them very much, but I know that Ian and John Paul really like having the fan going. So what I tend to do is have some noise cancelling headphones on while I'm watching TV, just to reduce that kind of fan noise going on in the background, because I find it really distracting. And lastly, ice blocks. And I found these to be an essential item to have during the summer months in terms of sleeping or having around during the day. Actually, what I tend to do is wrap mine in an old t-shirt, so you can have it, placed perhaps in the small of your back. And I like having mine near my feet while I'm sleeping because it really does help to, yeah, make you feel a little cooler. So there we have it. There's my massive moan about summer. So you don't have to. Yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it? I at the moment feel like I'm in some kind of endurance test, and I think that's how it's going to feel for the next kind of 3 months. I'm just really looking forward to September and autumn, really. I find this time of the year just really quite difficult to get through, and it is actually getting worse as I'm getting older, I'm finding as well, which is, yeah, a bit tricky to kind of deal with, really. So anyway, let me know if you found any of this relatable, or if you can't, perhaps you really enjoy the summer months and the warmer weather. I think it's just really interesting how we all differ as autistic people. We've all, of course, got autism in common, but our experiences of being autistic are really quite varied, aren't they? So anyway, if you've anything else you'd like to add to the list today, by all means leave them down in comments, and your tips and tricks for getting through the summer months as well would be really welcome. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching. Give it a like if you got this far, and I'll see you again soon.